All right, for this section, we're going to talk about graphing and how to graph an inequality on a number line, and then also how to, if we're given a number line with a graph, how to write the inequality. So these are steps to graphing on a number line. So these are really redundant, and as you see me do some of the example problems, I hope this makes sense. I am going to be drawing number lines from scratch, but this is just literally the step-by-step of how I'm going to do that. So you're just going to have one number line as your final answer. A lot of times the book, when you see them graphing numbers on a number line, they write the line right on top of the number line. I'm writing it right above. And again, just follow these rules when we are graphing on a number line, because that's what I'm going to be looking for. I think visually it helps us read it. Okay. One thing to recognize is the difference between greater than or less than, or greater than or equal to, or less than or equal to, is we are going to represent one with an open circle and one with a closed-in circle. So anytime you have an inequality, and you'll see what I mean when I do a couple of these graphs, anytime you see an inequality with an or equal to with that line underneath, make sure you used a filled-in circle. And conversely, if it doesn't have the line underneath, we make sure it's an open circle, because the or equal to includes the number that we are comparing it to. All right, so here would be the steps for graphing x is greater than 4. And remember, we always read the variable first. So if this was like this, x is greater than 4, these are the same thing. But we need to be able to read the variable first. When we are graphing, it's going to help you out. Okay, so the first step, I'm just going to kind of talk through these, and then we're going to practice a few. But you draw a number line and we label 0. The only reason I want you to label 0 is because whether we're dealing with a positive number or negative number, I want to see visually if you know it's to the right of 0 or to the left of 0. So on the number line, positive numbers are to the right of 0 and negative numbers are to the left. Step 2, you're going to label the number to the left or to the right of 0. So in this case, our number that we are doing is 4. 4 is positive, so it's going to be to the right. So you don't need to do 4 tick marks. I just want to see that you know that it's to the right of 0. Then we're going to either plot an open or closed circle. Remember, open would be there's no line underneath. Closed, there is a line underneath. So in this case, I plot the open circle. And then step 4, we draw the arrow to the way that it is worded. So in this case, x is greater than 4, or x is greater than 4. We are going to represent the arrow going towards numbers on the number line that will go in that direction. So obviously to the right, our 4 would be 5, 6, 7. All the numbers that are greater than 4, we're representing that with an arrow that way. All right, so it kind of comes together pretty quick when we go through how to do it. So I'm going to do that for these examples here. So step 1, we are going to draw the number line. So I draw a number line, I label 0. All right. Step 2, I'm going to label 1. 1 is to the right of 0, so I'll put a 1 there. Then I have to determine whether it is an open or a closed circle. Does it include 1 in my answer, or is it just not include 1? In this case, there's no line underneath, so it's going to be an open circle. And then I read the variable first, so this says a is less than 1. A is less than 1, so I draw an arrow going to all the numbers that would be less than 1, which would be 0, and all the negative numbers along with it. And that's pretty much it. All right, so looking at B, I'm going to draw my line. I'm going to label 0. Then I'm going to label negative 3. That's going to be to the left of 0. So I'll just put a negative 3 to the left. That way, if I have like negative 100, I can just indicate it. I don't have to do 1, 2, 3 like you would normally see on a number line. All right, so you're just labeling to the left or to the right of 0, so I know that you understand that piece. Then I have to determine whether it's an open or a closed circle. In this case, we do have the line underneath. So I'm going to fill in the circle above the 3, because that's including the 3. And then reading the variable first, n is greater than or equal to negative 3. N is greater than or equal to negative 3, meaning all the numbers that are greater than negative 3. So this arrow indicates it goes on forever. All right, pause here and try this next one. So I have my number line, label 0. I always joke that this takes 0 mathematical talent to be able to do that. Then I'm going to plot 2, it's positive, so I'm going to go to the right of 0 and just put a 2 there. Open or close circle, this would be open because there's no line underneath. And then reading the variable first, p is less than 2. P is less than 2. We point the arrow of every number that would be less than that number. And that's why it's important to read the variable first. We can say 2 is greater than p, and then a lot of people would want to put the arrow the other way, and that's where they make that mistake. All right, so then there is another part to this where if I give you the graph, like I give you this, and now we have to write the inequality for it. All right, so here's my 3-step way of doing it. Start by putting down the variable, and you can use whatever you want. I always use x just because you'll see that a lot. Then you put the number with a space in between it, because then we're going to have to fill in an inequality here, and then we determine what the sign is. So in this case, we are going left to right because I'm always going to put the variable first. So in this case, we put the x, we put the 6 of the number where it's indicated, and this is going less than, so it's all numbers less than 6. So you put the inequality, and since it's a filled in circle, we put the line underneath. All right, so let's do a couple more examples down here. So here I'm just going to use x for my variables. So I have x, and then I have -4. All right, then I am indicating the arrow that it's all values greater than -4. So x is greater than -4, and since it's filled in, I have to put that line because it's greater than or equal to. All right, over here, again, put a variable, put the number we're comparing. In this case, we have all numbers here that are less than 8. So less than, remember, it points to the smaller number, opens to the bigger number. That would be x is less than 8. All right, over here, 2 more examples. I'm going to try that. Put a variable, put the number that we are comparing it to, which would be 2. And this is indicating all numbers greater than or equal to 2 because it's a filled-in circle, so we'd say greater than or equal to, just like that. And then the final example, we again are going to start with our variable. You can use any letter, it doesn't matter. Again, just using x here. Our number here, it's labeled at 0, and it is going towards all the numbers on the number line that are less than 0. Imagine -1, -2, right? 1, 2. So all numbers that are less than 0. So I'm going to put the arrow pointing at the smaller number and no line underneath because it is an open circle.